Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And we talk about that all the time. I tell friends about that. So we're going to delve a little deeper into hypnotherapy. Why, by the way, Bonnie, welcome. Where you been? You've been traveling?
I've been traveling quite a bit lately. So Nice to be back.
Yeah. What, for work, or what have you been doing?
I actually have another job. I work for a college and I travel around and I do continuous improvement training for companies and colleges and city governments. And so, yes,
Interesting.
I've been very busy. Yes.
So you are connected to the medical world to some degree, right? Why do you think that things like Reiki and even hypnotherapy and other modalities aren't more accepted by the medical community?
One thing I think people don't know enough about them, but also it's a lot about control. So I have a sister that's a chiropractor. Both my sisters do Reiki. One does acupuncture as well, and we all do hypnosis. And it's just very frustrating because let's just say the hospital in town had some nurses refer some people to my sister, chiropractor, and they were benefiting from it. But then they got in trouble because they're not allowed to do that. Hospital didn't want him to do that. My mom just went to physical therapy for just trying to get her strength back from some chemo treatments. And the physical therapist has a long background in hypnotherapy. And he got in trouble because they didn't want him using it during the physical therapy sessions. My sister taught for a college, Mercy College, nursing. And she got hired knowing she does hypnosis. And they were all excited about it. So she was using it to help students on her own time, no charge. And they said, you can't do that anymore. It's like, but it's helping students. So I don't quite understand what the fear is because other countries accept it as just another type of therapy. So I don't have a good answer.
Now, when you say that she was using it to help students, was that with anxiety for test taking and things like that?
Yeah. Yes, test anxiety, just while she was doing the test anxiety, she had a lot of insomnia, couldn't sleep. And they wouldn't come back. I mean, they shared great reviews because the one went home and actually slept the best she'd slept in a long time, and therefore got up late and got to clinical late. So that was what kind of brought it to light. And it was just because she had a good night's sleep finally, for what she hadn't had for a very long time. So it's just, it frustrates me because there are so many things that traditional healthcare, I'm not knocking traditional healthcare, but there's a lot of things that they don't treat well or at all. If you think about mental health, we have a huge mental health crisis right now. And there's not enough providers. I was just looking at something online and they said the average wait time is anywhere from 2 weeks to 4 months if you need to get in to see somebody. So,
especially if it's insurance paid. If it's self-paid, you might get in a little sooner, but look at how much money you have to spend. And sometimes they cut you a little bit of a break, but it's still a wait, it's still a process. And then once you get through the entire process, then you connect with somebody. And what if you don't really connect with them? So now you've gone through all those steps and just like, I'm not feeling this. Yeah. And then start all over again. You're 100% right. And people don't use the word crisis enough, but it's a crisis right now.
Well, if you're having just severe anxiety, it's like, okay, do I go see a psychiatrist, a counselor, or whoever it might be? And the charges are going to vary, but it's going to take a while to get in. And, we got a lot of people coming through the door. They're like, I went here and I went here and it didn't do me any good. And this person, the first thing they did was prescribe me medication. I don't want to take medication. I have a prescription. I don't want to fill it. Can you help me?
Hear the same exact stories all the time. And because there's side effects with the medication. And then what if it doesn't work? Then you're on with another one. And usually that's the path of least resistance. Just write a script. We're all good to go.
Yes. And you have the opioid epidemic. So you got a lot of people that are really afraid of, maybe they've been addicted to something and they do not want to take any kind of medication.
Sure.
So what's the first thing they did? And I had some of those. They come in and they're like, I went here, and the first thing they did was prescribe me medications, and I don't want to take them because I'm afraid that I'm going to go back down that path again. So, and then you have other people too that where do they go? For example, I had somebody just recently that came in and she has an aversion to fruits and vegetables. Her entire life, the minute they would touch her mouth, she would start gagging and doesn't know where it stemmed from. We
Wow.
did a regression, didn't have any reason or anything that happened as a youngster. So she came here and we did a couple sessions, and so she's just gradually starting to eat fruits and vegetables, which she was never able to do before. And she wants to do it because she's getting older, so it's harder to lose weight, and she wants to set a good example for her children. If you were a person, where would you go to get help with that?
Don't know. That's a tough one.
Students with test anxiety, they have all the knowledge, and they have one exam that's sitting between them and a career maybe of their dreams. Like for the rest of their life, they could have a career. The one thing standing between them and that career is a test. And because they have such severe test anxiety, they've maybe taken the test multiple times before.
Mm-hmm.
And where do they go to get help?
Right. And they could be brilliant. They could be, an amazing student. But when it comes to taking a test, my daughter is 13, says the same exact thing to me. She goes, I study. I'm right there. I know what I need to do when it comes to taking the test. My brain locks up.
Yeah.
Can't do it.
Now, hypnosis wouldn't help you if you didn't prepare, but
Right.
It can help you if you prepare. You just have to learn how to relax yourself and, let it all come through.
So for somebody like that, let's just say they have to take a test. They have, call it test anxiety. How many sessions would help them?
Actually, a lot of them just one. Some come back for two, kind of like a booster, but for the most part, we can do it in one session. And we can but it has to be, number one, you have to prepare for your test. Like you can't just go to class and
Right.
not do the work. And, but, don't come the night before the test, maybe come a week before so that you have time to listen to some audios. We have an audio download that when they leave here, we give them an audio download that they can listen to on their own time.
Oh, wow. So what is that kind of
reinforce this again?
Reinforce
Go
it.
ahead.
So silly question. So let's say somebody has test anxiety. They do a hypnotherapy treatment with you. How do they know that they're ready to take the test?
So the hypnosis session, during the session, there's a lot that happens, but one of the things we do is have them visualize, actually go through the process of preparing, like studying, like maybe let's say the night before, walk them through the process and how they're able to recall everything, and they are able to relax their mind. They go to bed, they have a good night's sleep, and they wake up, and we take them through each step, kind of like an athlete would do, where they're envisioning the race. They're seeing themselves in the starting blocks. They're seeing themselves running the race. They're seeing themselves win the race. We kind of do that with the test anxiety as well. And the neat thing about hypnosis is they actually feel those emotions. They feel, their family congratulating them. They feel how excited they are when they actually see their grade. So part of the download is to help reinforce those feelings so that they're already practicing before they get to the point of taking the test. Then during the test, we also give them post-hypnotic suggestions about when they recognize that feeling coming up. We'll give them like a trigger and say, once you recognize it, maybe you put your thumb, forefinger together and take 3 deep breaths and close your eyes, kind of like what we did with you, and just and go to I call it their library, mental library, where everything they've ever learned is stored. And their library is their library. It might be walls and pillars and all these books, or it might be videos or whatever, and they can just ask for the information to come, and they practice doing that before they ever go into a session. And it's interesting because a lot of them will go into the test and they'll start recognizing that, and then they'll remember the suggestions we gave them. And part of that is through hypnosis, giving them those post-hypnotics, where it just happens automatically, and they feel themselves just to start get calmer. so that they can take the exam.
So really, they feel so much better from the hypnosis just out of the gate, just mentally, physically, they feel like they're ready to take the test. And that's how I guess you would know that you don't have to have another session or two or whatever it might be.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. And some of them, they get really anxious because they're not sure if they trust it or not. So those are the ones that might come in. Let's say they come in 2 weeks out because they have a big test coming up, like board exams or a final exam. And, they usually feel different right after that, but they're still apprehensive because they've had this long history. So they might come in another time, like a couple days before the test. And I call it a booster because a lot of times they really don't need it. They just want some reinforcement.
Sure.
And that's okay to help with their confidence.
So with what we're talking about, the test anxiety, how you can help people out, can you do it? Would that be something that can be done virtually too?
Absolutely. Yes.
Wow. More people need to know. We got to talk about this more. We can get the word out.
I'm surprised at the number of people that deal with test anxiety. I mean, whether you're in high school, grade school.
Oh my gosh.
Or trying to pass your boards for for your law degree or nursing or chiropractic or whatever, everybody takes tests all throughout their lives, and think about how debilitating that is. If you fail a few times, I had one individual that came in, she failed 4 times, and she even paid for extra help to prepare for the exam, and she still failed it. And then she came, and I saw her twice, and she passed it.
Bonnie, I have test anxiety taking a blood test. So
Really?
Yeah, I put it off. I have a script in my email from like 3 months ago, and I haven't gotten to it. And it was because a bad experience. And maybe that's some people with test anxiety. But I took a blood test, I don't know, 10 years ago, whatever it might have been. And they left a band on my arm. And, the phlebotomist and the coworker just started talking. That I was already done. And they're just talking. It's like 8 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, waiting. So they come over.
Wow.
I think maybe we got to take this off. Oh, yeah, let me take that off. Takes it off right away, the instant flow. And I pretty much passed out. Like I started going over. And ever since then, I always think about it. And, slight anxiety. Like I don't go running in there. Yeah, I'm here to take tests. So, and I'm way overdue for the routine blood test, but it's literally in my email, I think from January, where I called the doctor and said, send it to me. And, but yeah, anxiety in all different ways. And it's funny, if you're going to take a major test, unless you've got it, you just know there's going to be no problem here. I would just get hypnotized anyway. What the heck not?
Yeah.
What do you have to lose, right?
Right. And it's amazing all the things that you could do hypnosis for, like they do it a lot with kids when they go to get their shots. You can help calm them down. Kids are very open, and because they just absorb, they're like, my mind's open and just feed it to me. And you can do a lot with kids. Actually, kids are really good too. If you have problems with kids, they have kind of the sleeping hypnosis. So right as they're falling to sleep, you can talk to them, and that would absorb. So as they're falling asleep, start giving them positive suggestions about whether it's behavior or how much they're loved or whatever. They call it sleep talk. And because they're very open at that point, because they're actually going into that, and I'll call that hypnotic state or that trance state as you're just falling into sleep. So they're going to hear it. And I had a person that had fostered a child that had a lot of, they had a lot of past trauma. And it was funny because she started doing that, and the little boy would wake up the next morning. He's like, why do you keep saying that to me? As he started repeating back what she was saying.
Wow.
So just a suggestion for people that you're having issues with your kids, give them positive suggestions right before they sleep.
Interesting. And yes, because we did talk about that. And I shared that with someone the other day. Actually, it was my son. We were talking about, and I told him about what you did. And he's like, well, how is that even possible? I said, the state that you're in right before you fall asleep, you can feel it. You're just about to nod out. That's where I was. That's where Bonnie took me, right to that point. And he got it. Like that clicked in his head. Like, yeah, all right. Now, just before I go to sleep. Interesting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, a lot of people, they're afraid of losing control because they think there's something's going to happen to them. When, that's one of the fears is, I don't know what's going to happen and I don't want to lose control. Well, actually, people don't realize is they are always in control.
Yep.
It's just you get to a relaxed state. Because if I would, again, we've talked about this before, if I would say or do anything that went against your beliefs or your values or what you wanted to happen, you just wouldn't take it on. Your mind would not take it on. So
absolutely. And the two things I always say, the best sleep or relaxation I ever had, colonoscopy, where I woke up and I was like, I'm a baby. So I'm like, oh my God, I wake up, I'm like, wow, that was the best sleep I ever had. It was only 20 minutes, but it felt like 20 years. And then when you put me in I think we were right there. And then, we were out of time, but I still vividly remember being in that field of flowers with the fresh cut grass. I can still see it. And boy, I want to go back there. I wish I could just, take a pill, or you could snap your finger and put me back there easily. We have instant feedback, and you can reach us anytime. instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com. Jennifer in Dallas says, my parents got divorced when I was very young. I have a fear of being alone, and it's a challenge with relationships. Can hypnosis help me out with that?
Yes. So if you think about young children, or children, I want to say probably from the age of 3 to 10, is you're wide open. So you're absorbing everything that's around you. And that would be considered as kind of like a traumatic life event.
Sure.
And that's where we get what we call imprints. And so naturally, I can see why you'd have a fear of being alone. And yes, hypnosis can help with that.
Wow.
It can.
I guess the great thing is Jennifer identifies that why she has this fear of being alone, that it is connected to the separation of her parents back in the day when she was young. So that's, check that box off as a positive.
Right.
So would that come under, you said trauma. Would that also be anxiety, that maybe she suffers from anxiety and is not verbalizing it that way?
Yeah, you could, anxiety, that she probably, there's a lot that you remember with that fear and how you felt at that time that you were going to be, some people it's, it's an abandonment and I'm going to be left alone or whatever it is. Yep. So you could do, like there might be a time where you might choose to regress that person back to that time frame and get them to look at it, the situation from an adult's perspective rather than that child perspective. Because children, they don't necessarily see things the same way. Like I told you about the person that she thought she had killed her dad because she didn't go play the piano when he was having a heart attack. Did I tell you about that one?
No.
Oh, okay. So there was an individual that later in life, she had a lot of trauma, a lot of ailments and things like that. And I didn't regress her, but somebody else did. They regressed her back to a time when she was a child. And her father was having a heart attack, and he knew it was happening, and he called the ambulance. And he kept asking her to go play the piano because she played the piano. And she didn't want to go play the piano because she was worried about her dad. But he was trying to get her to go play the piano so she wouldn't see that, if should something happen and he would die. So he did end up passing away. And she carried that with her, believing from a child's perspective that she had caused his death because she didn't play the piano. Now that's a child's perspective. That's how a child rationalizes things. So during the regression, they had her go back and look at it from an adult's perspective, what was happening. And you get to see it, all the things that are happening and why he was doing that. So she was able to kind of let that go because from an adult's perspective, she was able to see that he was trying to protect her, had nothing to do with playing the piano. And to kind of release that and move forward. So, because if you don't take care of some of those traumas, it does come out in one way or another. Cancer is one that there's a lot about anger. It manifests as anger. If you have something with your throat, a lot of times you're not speaking your truth. And
So, and I firmly believe what I'm pretty sure you just said, that if you've got something inside of you, whether it's anger, whether it's anxiety, whatever it might be, it will manifest in a different form. And that could be cancer, could be other health, ulcer, right? All different types of
Yep.
things.
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
Totally true.
Yes.
Yeah. The more and more I look into it and I research it, the more I see it, even when, it's such a cliche. People have been saying it forever, but stress kills. Well, yes, it
Yeah.
can, but it can do also many, many other things at the same time.
Yes.
Wow.
And if you carry around a lot of anger with you, that you just hate the world and everything, and when you get kind of in that rut too, it's really hard to break out of it,
Yeah.
because so in hypnosis, some of the suggestions we give is to try and break that cycle. Number one, recognize it. Number two, make a conscious choice or unconscious choice to break that cycle. So if you, for example, if you wake up every morning, we try to get people to look at the beautiful things around them, be grateful. Before you go to bed, think of all the things you're grateful about. That puts your mind at ease, so that you can have a better night's sleep, rather than your mind thinking about all those things that are going wrong with the world.
Yep.
So,
And that's where it's happening, where you're sleeping and you can't control it. Your mind is just going around, and you think you might be getting an okay night's sleep, but you're probably really not.
right. So insomnia, a lot of people, they're on the phones watching TV or something right until they go to bed. Well, give yourself some time before you go to bed and just lay there and start envisioning something that makes you very happy, like a beautiful sunset where your grass and the garden and the flowers. And
Yeah.
just imagine what those are like. And so that you kind of clear out your mind and give it happy thoughts before you go to sleep. And I wanted to ask you too, if you were to imagine when we put you in the garden with the flowers, you remember that very vividly.
Mm-hmm.
And notice how much different it is than if you were just imagining it.
Give me that again.
So when people imagine stuff, you don't get the feelings and the sensations and the part of just being there, like feeling like you're really there. And from what you described, would you say you really felt like you were there experiencing that?
Hell yeah. You're
Versus
right.
versus if you were just to imagine it, it wouldn't have near the impact.
No, it would be almost like a fading memory. It's like, yeah, I see it in my mind, or it's almost like if somebody showed me a picture and, oh yeah, all right, there's a field of flowers. Okay, great. And I'm going to remember that picture. No, I remember it like being there. Like the difference between watching a TV that was made 20 years ago and a TV, a full 4K LCD that just came out, that cost, you get a TV and, large screen for, $800 now, or you can get one for, $4,000. That's the $4,000 TV in my mind. How vivid every flower was, every stem. I want to say tulips. Sometimes I can't remember the names of flowers, but yeah, I see red, I see yellow, I see the green, but I was laying on the fresh cut grass, and I love great grass. And it was just, the sun was shining. I didn't see the sun. Shut me up, by the way. I didn't see the sun, but I felt it like I was there. And what a great point you bring up, how ingrained it is in you. And I wasn't even fully hypnotized. I don't think I was. I felt myself go like right to that point, and I think we could have went right here, but we never got here because we had to stop. We ran out of time. But amazing experience.
Now think about doing a past life regression where you are there in another place and time.
It'd be like watching a movie where you
step right into it,
and you step right into it, and you don't forget it. I mean, think of movies. I saw a movie last night watching with my daughter, and I still remember it very clearly what it was like, and I would imagine it would be kind of the same kind of feel to it.
Yes.
So with the past life regression, you can't do that virtually. Is that right?
Technically, you can. I would prefer to do it in person.
Okay.
Just because there's more that's involved with it.
Right.
Number one, I record it. Sometimes I videotape it to give to clients. That's part of the session. But also sometimes people have what we call ab-reactions, where they get very emotional and, sometimes even hysterical. And I want to be able to recognize that and be able to take care of that.
Yeah.
And which I haven't had any issues, but it would just be a little more difficult online.
I gotcha. You know what? It's that, and that's the way you're wired. You're more of a TLC kind of person. You want to be there for them. I don't want to say, control it, but it's a different situation. And not that anything detrimental is going to happen, but it can get emotional depending on where you brought them back. I can't believe I'm looking at the clock. We're like out of time.
We are out of time.
Buzz on by.
I always like talking to you.
Yeah, same here. Same here. Tell everybody if they want to be, part of what you do in terms of holistic health and wellness. Of course, you do offer Reiki within, your stable of services, but definitely hypnotherapy. How do they reach out to you?
So we have two websites. They're all connected, but one is H3, the number 3 hypnosis.com. And then the other one is the number 2 wellness.net. And you could go to either one and you can get our contact information. My phone number's on there, email addresses. You can fill out the form and you can call us, email us, whatever you want, and we'll get back to you, or we'll just sit and chat.
Love it.
And set something up for you.
I'm really thinking about sometime soon going all out there and having you officially for a while take me back to that field and flowers and fix things that are not working right up here.
And back to colonial times, right?
It's one of my favorite eras, but I can't tell you that's where I'm from. I guess we'll find that out. But Bonnie Slykhuis, great talking to you as always.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, take care.
Yeah.
Thanks. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you can now listen live on the MyTuner Radio and online Radio Box apps for iOS, Android, and the Amazon App Store. Or check us out online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com or search Podcast Business News Network on onlineradiobox.com/US so you don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.